You're listening to Knon 89.3 FM in Dallas, the voice of the people, voted best radio station for music 2 years in a row by the Dallas Observer.
And good morning and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm David Taffet here in the studio with LaRon Landis and the late Patty Fink. And our guest today is Buck Angel, who's a motivational speaker, a transgender activist, and lots of other things. Welcome, Buck.
Thank you.
And
yes, that Buck for the fans who are listening. Sorry, I'm tickled to death today.
You are. And you know what I did? We had another guest scheduled, and guest had to cancel for a couple of reasons. Will be with us in October. And within 30 minutes, Kathy, who's here in the studio with us, had sent me an email and said that she had spoken to Colleen here in the office and about arranging for Buck to be on. And so I wrote back, you know, it's like one of those things at the kind of last minute when your guest cancels and you go, thank you, Kathy. Because right at the last minute, Buck is here. We're delighted that you're with us, Buck. Why don't we start with explaining to the audience, because LaRon, you're a big fan. I'm sure a lot of our audience doesn't know your work. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what and your story.
Sure. I was born a female, and I'm a transsexual man. I was born a female, and I had a sex change to become a man, but what's unique about myself is that I chose not to get what we call bottom surgery, which is to get a penis attached to myself. For many reasons, not because I didn't want to have that, but because through years of looking and figuring out how I was going to get that done, I just never found something that was going to be, you know, what I wanted, which was, you know, a working penis. They just don't make those. So there was a lot of things going on there. And eventually I had to just sort of come to terms with the fact that I wasn't going to have a penis and that I was never going to become a man. And so through that, I realized if I do not come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to have a penis, I'm never going to be a happy person, ever in the world, ever. Even though I felt like a man, as you can see, I pretty much look like a man.
You present completely as a man.
Thank you.
I mean, 100%.
But again, what are we taught in this world? That you cannot be a man without a penis. It's just It's just part of the way we're taught. And so through my growth as a person and realizing that and having to come to terms with myself, I realized that I am a man. Mm-hmm. And no matter what anybody tells me, I am a man. And that was like, it was really like sort of like how you know, sort of just realize something in your life. It was like an opening, the earth opened for me. And it was like, I became myself. And through that, I started to want to share that with the world. And I decided to start, I worked in the adult entertainment business behind the scenes. And I realized there was nobody like me ever in the adult entertainment world. And a lot of people might tell you, well, that's a little weird thing to do. But for me, I felt adult entertainment was educational. A lot of people watch it for a lot of reasons, but I felt like I could reach a certain audience sexually, showing them, you know, wow, there's a guy like this and he's very proud of his body. And, you know, so I did that for many years. And through that, I started to gain a fan base and I started to get people interested in who I was. But there were people outside of the porn world I wanted to reach, because not everybody watches porn, right? Of course not, right? Wink. Just kidding.
Yeah, and LaRon
wink.
LaRon watches solely for entertainment.
Solely for educational purposes.
Hey, you did educate me, because when I first was introduced to you, I'm like, what?
See, it totally worked.
It totally worked.
But I knew I wasn't going to reach those other people that really didn't want to watch my porn, and I respect that. So I realized, you know, I could start speaking to another audience, and I wanted to speak to the younger generation, and I'm not going to do that with pornography, obviously. So I started to, you know, go speaking at schools, and schools started asking me, and I sort of really kind of twisted my, you know, pornography status, porn star status, to speaking. And then I realized, you know, I feel like I'm sort of more of a motivational speaker, and that's how I sort of became, and myself today, I consider myself more like a motivational speaker and an advocate, and that's kind of it in a nutshell, basically.
You've had quite the journey of a life so far. Did you have an epiphany one day? Like, I'm not, because I know a little bit about your story. First, you thought you may be a lesbian. Was it just one day, or was it a process to realize I'm not a lesbian, I'm actually a man?
No, I always knew I was a man. I mean, even from age 2, my parents were calling me Buck. My parents pretty much raised me like a boy. There was never I have an older sister and a younger sister. There was never any weirdness until puberty started.
Yeah.
So puberty was the kind of like catalyst for me to like go, straight down.
Yeah, that damn estrogen.
I'm a man with my period. Not cool. So that was like my downfall. I always knew I was a guy. I always felt like that. Even when I was a lesbian, I felt like a man. But people back in the day, I had my sex change 20 years ago. Back in the day, nobody knew how to deal with that. There was no transgender therapist. They didn't even know the word transgender back then.
Right.
It was Tran-sexual. So yeah, I always knew it, but it was a difficult thing for me to find people to believe it.
Going to the sex change subject, Chaz Bono has talked in his documentary about whether he should get the penis surgery or not. And for those who don't know, like you're saying, that hasn't been perfected yet.
Right.
They can do it, but
Yes.
it's not. It's a long way from being perfected.
Right.
Do you need that to legally be changed?
No. You don't actually.
Okay.
But it goes state to state. I've actually even had my birth certificate changed, so I look like I was actually born male now.
Yeah, good luck doing that here in Texas.
Yeah, that's what I was going to tell you. It's state to state. And actually, after 9/11, they changed the law a lot too. They've locked down a lot on changing identifications, more for homeland security. So whatever that means. That's a whole nother show.
Because your gender is a complete threat to the security of this country.
For sure. Most definitely.
And I want you to know that your being here has caused Dallas police to surround the building.
I thought that's what I was hearing, all those,
That is what you're hearing
those
here.
sirens.
You are dangerous. One of the things that we were talking about before the show is in the gay community, lesbians do lesbian similarly. And they get each other, and gay men tend to get each other. Not LaRon with his kid and all that, but the rest of us, we get each other. What we find in the transgender community is that different people do transgender differently. It isn't one thing, is it?
No, it isn't, and I'm actually happy about that. But I see more and more the trans community trying to put themselves back into that box that I've been fighting to get us out of. I'm a big, big advocate for diversity, and I'm a big advocate to say, if you want to be a guy, be a guy. However that is, however you define what it is to be a man, not what society defines as a man, or not what your trans brother decides as a man, or what your girlfriend decides as a man. And so that's something that I am fighting against, because they are actually starting to conform to this one way of being, and if you're not like that, they make you feel sort of like an outsider, and they're not nice about it.
Younger people seem to be doing transgender a little bit differently, maybe more broadly, and in their own way.
They are and they're not. That's what they're calling it sort of trans fluid, gender fluid. That's kind of the new thing, where they sort of don't want to sort of define, am I a male or am I a female, which is awesome and what I'm fighting. But at the same time that they think that they're doing that, they're also putting other restrictions on that. So they think they're being sort of outside of that, but then there's all these other sort of ways that you have to conform with that. But there's a huge amount of trans men, I don't know about huge, but there's a lot of trans men who still believe that if you don't get the penis, you'll never become a man, ever.
But I think it's kind of interesting too, when we talk to straight people, they don't really know, if you say, define masculine.
Right.
And they say, oh, well, it means facial hair.
Right.
Well, so a man who doesn't have facial hair is not masculine?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
no, that's not what I mean. And then they go through another stab at it, Like, well, they're big and muscular. Okay, so a woman who's big and muscular is masculine?
Right.
Well, and they struggle with it.
Yeah.
It's a problem. So for straight people, defining what is masculine and feminine, even though if they don't realize it, is not that cut and dried. It
No,
really
it's
isn't.
far from it.
And so for the LGBT community to have a view of masculinity and femininity and gender role and those things is, it's a lot easier for straight people to get it when they realize that a lot of LGBT people don't get it either.
Yeah, because who would get it? I mean, for me, it's like, I don't care if you're LGBT, straight, whatever you are. There is no defining factor for anything. That was what I realized for my work, that it wasn't about just being, this man with a vagina. It was about showing the world that you could be whoever you wanted to be, no matter what. And there are no boxes. Like, the box thing is what society wants from us, and we have to remove ourselves from that. And I removed myself from that by becoming a man with a vagina and being very comfortable about it and saying, I'm still a man. That does not, what's between my legs is not what defines me, and it doesn't define you or you. And I think that thing is very difficult for people to get their heads around, because we've all been programmed to believe that, no, this is a woman, this is a man, this is that. And it's like, no, we're all like, who knows? Somebody in this room could be wearing women's panties under their thing and no one knows about it, but it makes him feel a part of who he is.
Well, we do know about it because Laurent and I just talk about everything, but it's okay.
I told you about to tell people about my panties, David.
But some people can be very disturbed by that. You know what I'm saying? Some people will be very disturbed by that.
And
but why?
Laurent is very disturbed. But we love him anyway.
Part of, I guess, being transgender is this issue of passing. I don't know if it's more of an issue with some than others. And I think, from my observation, it seems like male to females typically don't pass as good as females to males. Let's just keep it real. If I were just to see you pass you in the mall, I wouldn't think twice about it. But if you're a 6'3" guy, biological guy, you have a dress on and you haven't had a lot of work done, you're going to turn some heads.
Right.
Was that an issue to you as far as passing when you first started, or just like, I don't care if I pass or not?
Well, I was lucky in a sense that I already was sort of androgynous looking in that way. So when I started taking hormones, it just like literally just sucked right into my body and just immediately changed, like was immediate pretty much. And I think, to be honest with you, it is a little easier for a woman to become a man than it is a lot of times for a man to become a woman. And that's just because the canvas, think of the canvas. I mean, like, all I have to do is grow a little facial hair. I could put a baseball cap on and jeans, and I could walk down the street, even if I had never had surgery right now or anything, and nobody would, again, like you just said. Whereas if you're a taller man, maybe with, you're already a man who has grown hands, or you have an Adam's apple. Yeah. You're fighting against that. I have a huge soft spot in my heart for that, because I do know that I have an advantage. And I was just at a conference in Atlanta called Southern Comfort, which is the oldest trans conference in the world, actually.
Yeah, have a film on it too.
Exactly.
Very, very good.
Really amazing people, but a lot of more cross-dressers, male to female cross-dressers go there, and women, male to female trans women who don't live full-time as trans women. They're like people who work in the corporate world, and they can't become the woman they want to be. And God, that breaks my heart. I can't even imagine having to like one day become a woman and then go back to my, male self at the job. It's a very difficult thing.
Do you think one of the things that made it easier for you is that you were basically raised as a boy?
Yeah, yes.
And so it wasn't the same kind of transition. It was it was
already very fluid.
You enhanced who you were.
Yeah, and that's why it was, I think, a lot easier for me when I got to do it. But like I was saying earlier, my childhood was really easy. I had a great childhood. My family treated me like a boy. There was no weirdness at all.
And to compare that to a gay man, I was raised where it was okay to be gay.
Right.
It wasn't something that suddenly, sometime in my 30s, I said, okay, I just can't do this thing that I'm supposed to do anymore. it was, when I came out, it was just part of who I was, and I was in my late teens, and I just was more of who I was.
Which is very rare, I'm sure. Like, a lot of people aren't, especially being a gay man.
Sure.
They're told that.
More and more, it's happening because over at Youth First Texas, our youth group here in town, lots of kids who are 14, 15 years old are there now.
Wow.
A lot of them come with their parents even, which is wonderful to see, but lots don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
So you never had to, excuse me, officially come out to your parents?
Well, I first came out as a gay woman to my parents, and that was actually really bad. My parents could not handle me being a gay woman. First of all, I was a hardcore dyke, shaved head, the 80s. They're like, what? They freaked out.
So no lipstick lesbian.
Oh no, I was hardcore. I was like, what? Butch. And they just, it's not like that. I was already like a very much of a tomboy and stuff, which is like, okay, that's cute when you're 13. But when you're 17 and 18 and you're like getting even more raw, they're like, where's your boyfriend? And they were freaking out. Wow. It's interesting because they did raise me like a boy. So I don't know where, well, I do know there was a turning point, and what happened was puberty started, and then their friends started saying things to them like, he's a she. And you need to start treating him as a he, as a her. Got my parents all freaked out. To this day, they think that they caused what I am. Mm-hmm. But to this day, my parents are amazing. They have totally accepted me as their son. Mm-hmm. I lost contact with my parents for many years. They couldn't deal with me anymore. I was totally out of control.
Do you think that's more unusual? Even lots of gays and lesbians, their parents reject them. Do you think it's even more common with transgender?
I don't think it's more common. I think it's just the same, to be honest with you. I think parents just they don't know how to deal with that. And I honestly think it's about them. It's not about, for me, it was about my parents. It wasn't about me being a gay woman. It was the fact that, what are the neighbors going to think? What are our friends going to think? Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, you know what, we love our daughter and she's totally cool and we don't care that, she looks like a bull dyke. It wasn't that. It was like, now it's easy. I'm their son. It's they even expressed that to me. They said, Buck, it's easier for us to introduce you as our son. No one would even, and I understand that, and I appreciate the honesty from my parents. That
and we're talking to Buck Angel, a motivational speaker, transgender activist here in town for Beyond Vanilla, which is going on this weekend. Yep. Various.
I'm also doing a dinner
at Dish on Cedar Springs.
Yes.
What day is that?
That's Thursday night.
Thursday night.
Yep.
We need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM, and we'll be back with more Lambda Weekly right after this.
You're listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, chosen the best radio station for music by the Dallas Observer.
KNON thanks Buyer Imaging Copier Solutions for their support of KNON. Buyer Imaging Copier Solutions provides KNON all our copy services. Buyer Imaging Copier Solutions sells, leases, rents, and services a full line of color and black and white Canon copiers with scanning, printing, and faxing capabilities. Buyer Imaging Copier Solutions offers wholesale packaging back to the consumer market in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Overstock, demo models, and used equipment with full warranty is available. For more information, 214-431-5191 or BEYERimaging.com.
Did you know that KNON podcasts all of its local talk shows? KNON has local talk, each show covering your community in its own unique way. So if you missed one of our great morning talk shows, you can go back and listen to it online. We keep the shows for 2 months so you can hear everything you have been missing out on. Visit KNON.org for more information about the KNON Morning Talk Shows podcast. Also available on iTunes.
They're back! This is Weird Warren Harris, host of the Sonic Burrito Radio Show. And you've been asking us when the Red Elvises would be back. Well, I'm here to tell you, set your calendar, save the date, tattoo it on your forehead. Saturday, October 13th at the world-famous Sons of Herman Hall, 3414 Elm Street in Dallas. It's been 2 years since they've done a KNON benefit for the Sonic Burrito Show, so get your tickets now at Bill's Records, Forever Young in Grand Prairie, and at KNON.org. Also, there's going to be a free dinner from La Victoria Restaurant. So come on down. It's the return of the Red Elvises at the internationally famous Sons of Herman Hall. This is a KNON benefit.
Recycle Revolution is a local recycling collection service and community drop-off center. They collect and accept all traditional recyclables, including paper, plastic, aluminum, cardboard, and glass, as well as materials like TVs, computers, lamps, light bulbs, batteries, ballast, and styrofoam. They offer collection services to apartments, condos, and businesses. They also offer a community drop-off located at 1703 Chestnut Street in Dallas. For more information, 214-566-3025 or recyclerevolutiondallas.com.
Starting October 6th, LaRon, the late Patty Fink, and I will be moving to Saturdays. Lambda Weekly, the oldest, longest-running GLBT show on the air anywhere, will be heard right here on 89.3 KNON FM, Saturdays at 11 a.m.
And this is Lambda Weekly, and this is our last Wednesday morning show. We're moving to Saturdays, like you just heard me say.
Yes.
We're moving to Saturdays, 11 a.m. Jim Schutz will be our lead-in, which great lead-in.
Yeah, he's got Get Off My Lawn.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great show to
I love
lead
it.
in.
I love that title. So we'll be on 11 o'clock Wednesdays starting October 6th.
Saturdays.
Saturdays, what did I say?
Wednesdays.
Whatever. Don't listen to me. It's early in the morning. I can't be. You can't trust anything. No, but we'll be on Saturday morning, October 6th. I'm just looking at
10 a.m. or 11 a.m.?
11 a.m.
11 a.m., okay.
Yeah. So we'll be here at 10:30. Patty will be here promptly 5 after 11.
Hey, I'm the late Patty Fink. What can I say? I'm not dead.
You know, somebody asked me, Patty, okay, so with you being on like 11 a.m. on Saturday morning, and we were over, Aaron was there, with you being on Saturday morning, you'll be there on time. And Aaron and I just looked at each other and we said, no, she won't.
No. Plenty of mornings on Wednesdays when I've been here.
Yes, there
Right
have
early.
been plenty of Wednesday mornings that you have been here on time, and we're very proud of you.
True that.
I mean, it's every time she's here, and it's like, whoa, it's 2 minutes to 7, you're here. How did you make it here so early? Oh, gosh. So we are talking to Buck Angel, who's a motivational speaker, transgender activist, going to be doing several events here in town this weekend. One of the things we're talking about is the differences between how people do transgender. But one thing that you say that everybody should do, and it's not just transgender people, it's everybody in lots of different cases, is disclose. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean disclose in a sense of more about sex. Let's take, for example, if you're going to go home with somebody and have sex with them. If I'm going to go home with you and you have no idea, I just look like a guy, right? Which I am, but obviously I have a little bit different genitalia, and you don't know that.
Right.
But you think I'm a biological man, and we go home and we're going to have sex, and the vagina comes out. Are you going to be okay with that? Are you going to be okay with that? Possibly.
Yeah,
not.
Laron he's just grinning.
Okay, well, let's take someone else for example. Here, a bad example.
I don't know what I would do. But however, on a serious note, we have heard stories, many stories, where a male to female transgender person has gone home with a straight male he did not know, and when he found out, things got ugly.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think that is? Do you think it's because
I don't
of
know.
disclosure?
Yeah, but I don't think that's an excuse for it.
No. I'm not saying that at all. Of course, there's never any excuse to hurt anybody or kill anybody.
Right,
of course, clearly. But my point being is, if you have pride in yourself, okay, if I have pride in myself right now, and before we even hit that out of that bar, and I say, I just had to tell you one thing here, man. I was born a woman, I became a man, but I still have genitals of the female. Now I give you a choice. Are you still interested in me or not interested in me?
Right.
If you're not interested in me, I don't want to deal with that, because it's not going to be fun. Let me tell you, we're not going to have a very good time. But if you are interested in me, now it's down on the table. We can have a blast.
Right.
You're not going to freak out. That is my point about disclosure. It's also you're also taking pride in yourself. You're showing that, look, this is who I am. If you're going to deal with me that way, that's awesome. If you're not, I don't really need to be putting myself in that situation. On this flip side of that, if I don't show that, to you, I'm disrespecting you, right? Because you're going to get into that situation. You're going to obviously not be comfortable in some way, shape, or form. Like, what am I in this situation for? It brings up a lot of, I think that's why bio men freak out when, let's say, a trans woman goes home and doesn't, I think that's exactly why they freak out, because they're not comfortable in that situation.
Right.
Am I gay? Am I, come on, people just start having all those issues about themselves.
Especially if they've already gotten a little intimate with them. They haven't gone the full way.
Exactly.
But it's like, oh my God, I just kissed a man.
Exactly.
They're flipping out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's the thing about it, though, is that is, if you're really going to have a relationship with this person on any level, they're going to find out anyway.
Yes.
So do you want them to find out as this, ta-da?
Right.
Or do you want to tell them and have a conversation about it?
Okay, but here's where it gets difficult. A friend of mine, Jackie, she's been on the show before. She transitioned in her 40s, and she was a straight man, and she transitioned, and during the first year she became a straight woman. And so she'd go to a bar, straight bar, because she was now attracted to men. She went to a straight bar and she'd be talking to men, and she said, and we were talking about it, it wasn't that she didn't want to tell people, it's not that she thought she didn't have to tell people, but she said, when do I tell somebody?
Right.
I can't just tell them, hello, my name is Jackie. Hi, I'm Joe.
Clearly.
Hi, I'm transgender. You don't just do that.
No, you
in a
don't do
bar.
that. No.
Yeah, because she felt that was dangerous. But she also knew that you did it before going home.
Yes.
But after the first meeting. But when is that?
Trust me, I'm going to tell you. My point is this: you figure it out on your own. For me, for myself, it would be before I was going to go home and have sex with somebody. That was the deciding factor for me. It wasn't when I came in the bar, and it wasn't if I was just going to hang out with you and have drinks all night. You don't need to know. You know what I mean? It wasn't if we were just going to be buddies. You don't need to know. For me, it's clearly about sex. It's clearly when I know that I'm going to go have sex with you. That's the important, for me, that's the important time to disclose.
And she was even a little bit worried if it even got to that point, it needed to be before then, sometime leading up to that, because if it got to the point where, okay, we're about to go home, just a second, there's something I need to tell you.
I know.
There needs to be something.
It is a weird thing, but that's what I'm saying. I completely understand it's a weird thing. I've done it many, many, many times, and I have to tell you, it's not a weird thing. It's actually right then and there, you put it out on the table. That's just how I look at it. It's like, now is this person going to still be into me? Great. Most of the time they were. I'll tell you. Most of the time they didn't say no. Of course, there were some guys that said no. They weren't into it, and that's fine for me. Now I just alleviated that problem, and that just clears it up, and you have so much more fun that way because it's not in the back of your head.
Well, and you're not living a lie.
Yeah.
And you're very proud of who you are.
You're very proud of who you are.
Say so.
Exactly. That's just my. That's just my thing, and that's why I'm big on disclosure. I feel like you don't put yourself in a bad situation, and you are sort of, and that could be with HIV, that could be with an STD, that could be, it's respect. It comes down to respect. And I have to tell you that some trans women don't like that I am vocal about that, and they feel that I have disrespected them, and I've been called a trans misogynist because of what I said, that trans women should disclose before they go home. And I sort of feel insulted by that because it was only something that I'm putting out there as a positive thing and not as a negative thing. And I don't expect somebody to be killed because they don't disclose. That's far from what I'm saying. I'm saying you won't. Things won't happen to you. You'll be in a better situation, and you'll sort of put that situation that out, and that will never come to fruition if you say, look, I'm a trans woman and this is it.
And certainly if you're going down that path, they're going to find out.
Eventually they are. And then what?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And then what?
Why not take control proactively?
Proactive. I'm all about that.
And have the conversation in a way that you can control.
Sometimes people don't want to hear things, that. Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth. You can't handle the truth.
And I think most people can. Of course, when it came to Jackie, she was going to some dangerous bars because as a guy, she was a motorcyclist, a biker, and she remained that way. So, she was the same person. She really was the same person. So,
probably same bike.
Right. So, we said, one of the suggestions we had for her was maybe you should go to a safer bar.
Well, no, that's the thing is, that's cool that she continued to be herself. That's my point. Continue to be. I go to gay Leatherman bars sometimes. You know what I mean? They're expecting that, and I could present as that clearly, but not all the way. So I really do think it's disrespectful when you're. I don't want to use tricking because I'm not sure if that's the word.
No, it's not.
It's not the word, but it's sort of like dishonest in a way.
It's certainly not open.
It's certainly not open.
Right. And it's not trying to deceive because it's who you are. You are not pretending to be a man.
Exactly.
You are not acting as a man.
I am a man. I just don't happen to be the type of man that most of society thinks a man is.
And weren't born a man.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that I would even
physically.
Exactly, and it's not that I would say, I wouldn't say I was born a woman because that's kind of like a turnoff to the guys. I would just be like, I don't have a penis, I have a vagina, and most of the times they couldn't get their head around it. It was like, what?
Well, I think one of the most difficult groups that have to deal with this sort of thing are those who are intersex.
Yes.
Because that's something that you oftentimes don't see externally.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
And it may present internally to organs, internally to hormonal generation and chromosomal and all of those things. And so the intersex community really has at least the same difficulty, if not more. Because I think a lot of people could get their heads around, okay, well, I'm trans and that sort of thing, but when you try to say no, this is who I am and I'm okay with who I am, and I'm just different from you, I'm not the M or the F box. I'm not either one of those, how do you explain
to
that?
me? That's empowering, but it's also empowering.
Absolutely.
That's what I have to say is the thing that empowers me the most is being myself and not worrying what anybody else thinks about me. I mean, 110% so okay with myself. I walk naked in gyms. I go swimming naked places where people just are not sure what they're looking at. But it's such an empowering situation to be so free with my naked body and not really worry what the world, thinks about me. I just don't care. And because I put that energy out, I get that energy back.
And one of the suggestions to some of those people is stop looking then.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. They just don't know what they're looking at.
One of the things that you mentioned before the show was that before you really understood who you were comfortable with who you are, and you're obviously so completely comfortable who you are now, you said there were a number of suicide attempts. Now, for somebody who's so comfortable with who he is, to know that there were suicide attempts, first of all, why? Especially in a family that was accepting.
Yeah, totally. Well, my family was amazing until I hit puberty, like I said before. And, the boobs started to grow and the period came and I didn't know my body, hormones. And I'm like changing into a woman. And that was just horrifying for me because I thought of myself as a boy. People treated me as a boy. I played with the boys on the street. I'm a, 15-year-old girl playing football with the boys on the street. And that was what I loved doing, and it was no one ever really made a big deal out of it. But the puberty hit. And it was like all hell broke loose for me. And that's when I started smoking pot and I started drinking and I started just going outside of my body and not really functioning and not having any friends in school. And, and then I was a runner at a pretty high level track and field. And I was, really good. And people were coming to me and wanting me to go to different schools. And I got invited to all these amazing events. But my grades were F's all the way across the board. I was flunking out of school, and the only thing that kept me in school was running. And the first attempt of suicide was when my dad said I couldn't go and run this particular invitational track meet, which, all the major track stars in the world were running. And it was like, oh my God, you have to be invited to this. And it's like everything I worked for. And my dad says, if your grades don't get up, you're not going to go. And your grades don't get up in like a week. It doesn't happen. I already knew it. And I knew that I was waiting for the day to come. You can't run the race, and that's when I tried to kill myself. And I got put in a hospital for a psychiatric ward and that whole thing. And I didn't really know what was wrong with me. Nobody knew what was wrong with me for many, many years. I just continued to cycle that drug and alcohol addiction into where I was eventually homeless and basically tried to kill myself then again. And just because there was no direction. I never had any direction from that point on. And till I got sober. I got sober, and that was...
How long did that take?
My sobriety. Well, I was on from the time of 16 and my drug addiction started until the age of 28 when I got sober. So I was in and out of places, rehabs. I actually worked as a female fashion model in Europe for a while. I could be here for hours telling you my crazy story. It's just insane.
Okay, I have to hear female fashion model in Europe. Tell us.
Well, I got discovered somehow on the street. I mean, I had a girlfriend at the time, and this guy wanted to take pictures, so I did. And those pictures he took to a modeling agency behind my back, in a sense, and they ended up calling me up. And it was in the 80s when, remember androgyny? So I was one of those androgynous models that first kind of came to the scene, and they were really kind of pushing that androgyny thing. And I had an opportunity that most girls would have died, right? All top model, they would have died. And I was giving it, they were giving it to me. And I was like, oh, I was so not into it. But my drug addict mind was just cha-ching, cha-ching, right? I can make money because that's how drug addicts and alcoholics are. Anyway, they can try to figure out how to make a buck. So next thing I know, I'm in London and doing modeling, but I'm drinking. And over in Europe, they can drink, especially in the UK. That's the worst place for me to be. Drinking and drugging, and eventually just didn't make any of my castings, and they didn't want to continue that.
And that was the end of that.
That was the end of that.
Did you kind of feel when you were a female fashion model that you were cross-dressing?
Yeah, totally. And in fact, makeup artists always were pushing each other out of the side. They wanted to make my face up, fighting over me, because I would immediately, you could just totally morph me into a woman. I was like a blank canvas in a way. And, they would always be like, oh, you gotta look at yourself. I could never, ever look at myself in the mirror. I would just always give me another beer, push me out on the runway. It was craziness. It's funny because I have the pictures now, and it's really great because it really adds to the sort of you could see where I came from.
But now you can look back at that and just say, that was a fun period. I
could say that wasn't me, and I could really use it. I use it a lot for who I am today, in a sense that, that built me. All that tragedy and that tragic stuff that happened to me most definitely made me the person I am.
We need to take a break. We're talking to Buck Angel, and you're listening to 89.3 KNON FM, Lambda Weekly. We'll be back with more right after this.
You're listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, voted best radio station for music for 2 years in a row by the Dallas Observer.
GoodSearch.com provides a way for you to support nonprofits like KNON with your online shopping and dining. GoodSearch.com offers a downloadable toolbar for searching from your computer called Good App, so your purchases can go to support KNON. With Good Dining, every time you go out to eat at participating restaurants, then a portion of what you spend gets donated to KNON. Registering is easy at GoodSearch.com, and KNON 89.3 is the name to enter in your account settings for charity selection. Support KNON with your online shopping and dining at GoodSearch.com.
KNON's talk shows are moving. Tune in every Saturday morning beginning in October for an expanded Church and Information Forum program with Reverend Marion Barnett, airing 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. At 9 a.m., it's Workers Beat Labor Alive with Gene Lance, sponsored by CWA. 10 a.m., the Dallas Observer presents Get Off My Lawn with Jim Schutz, and Saturday mornings wrap up with Lambda Weekly featuring David Taffet at 11 a.m. It's KNON's New Talk Mornings every Saturday morning from 7 a.m. to noon. Starting October 1st, KNON will be broadcasting the KNON Morning Blend Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m., featuring a variety of the music you hear on KNON. Don't forget, KNON's talk shows are moving beginning in October.
Medicare and Medicaid recipients may qualify for additional services including dental, vision, and transportation through DFW Medicare Health Benefits. These plans also cover dentures and partials. For more information, 214-501-7330. That's 214-501-7330. Agents are available from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Vision, dentures, partials, and transportation may be available to recipients of Medicare and Medicaid through DFW Medicare Health Benefits at 214-501-7330.
Knon and Beyond Bows and Arrows' 4th ever benefit powwow is coming Saturday, October 6th. It's a free admission powwow with raffles, auctions, Indian food, arts and crafts, as well as raffle dances and spot dances. Vendor space is available. The 4th ever Knon benefit powwow takes place at Four Winds Park, located at 5380 East Highway 199 in Springtown, Texas. MCs for the powwow will be Knon's own Albert Oldcrow and Harold Rogers. All drums and princesses are welcome. Vendor setup is at noon. Gourd dance starts at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Supper break 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and the intertribal dancing from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. For vendor space or more information on the powwow, call Kathy Oldcrow at 214-704-7447. Once again, 214-704-7447. Come experience a traditional old-style benefit powwow Saturday, October 6th.
Starting October 6th, LaRon, the late Patty Fink, and I will be moving to Saturdays. Lambda Weekly, the oldest, longest-running GLBT show on the air anywhere, will be heard right here on 89.3 KNON FM, Saturdays at 11 a.m.
And this is Lambda Weekly, and I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patty Fink. The early LaRon Landis will be joining us for whole shows starting October 6th when we move to Saturdays. We'll be on Saturdays at 11, and we hope that you'll continue joining us.
And you can still listen to us live online. You can still listen to us, of course, on the 89.3 FM in North Texas on the radio dial, but we'll still be podcasting.
Doc is practicing right now, and we're doing video podcasts starting, might not be next week, but over the next few weeks we'll be.
It's very scary. It means dressing for radio has a whole new meaning.
Well, you know what? Not going to happen.
Well, this is, I have to say, Doc, this is very dangerous to try to film us at 7 a.m.
Right.
You know, I mean, this is.
You are just magicians, and I'm pulling the curtain aside so you can see the tricks.
It's better.
It's better
for the video podcast. Better at 11 a.m. So, last week we did a whole show on stupid things Romney said.
Right.
We should have waited a week. There have been so many this week.
Well, it's even multi-day. I mean, multiple per day. It's like we said something in the morning, and then by 4 in the afternoon, oh, guess what else he said?
Right. So let's just open our windows and.
Did you roll your windows down in your plane?
I did. There's so much wrong with that. First of all.
Basic third grade science.
No,
that's the biggest problem I have with it.
Yeah, but we're not even talking about the science part. It just starts with the obvious that, well, did you ever roll the windows down in your plane, Patty? The whole thing started because of his wife's plane.
Right. And adding oxygen to a fire is always what you want to do.
Of course it is. What's wrong with that?
That would have helped.
What's wrong with that?
And he thinks it's dangerous that they don't. Add oxygen to the fire by rolling the window down. All I can think of is remember that Twilight Zone episode with, what's his name, Shatner?
Oh, yeah.
With the gremlin thing
gremlin out on
the wing while he's flying.
Right.
I kind of think of that. It's
well,
roll your window down. We can talk.
I think what he was thinking was that, if there's a fire going on inside the plane, you climb out the window and you hang on to your dog's cage that's strapped onto the wing.
That could be.
Anyway, we're talking to Buck Angel, a motivational speaker, transgender activist, and we're just talking about different things about being transgender, about being who you are, really, because that's really what your message is. Mm-hmm. It's not that you're just encouraging transgender people to be who they are. It's everybody should be who they are.
Right.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Who are some of the types of people that you come in contact with that you're really encouraging to just be yourself?
Well, I'm hoping everybody, and that can be all across, the gamut of from, straight men to, gay women, pretty much, and everything in between. And I think I do, and I've seen it grow because I've seen my emails become things like just from a straight guy, who just would never believe me. Early on in my career, I used to get extremely horrifying hate mail, mostly from straight men who literally wanted to kill me. It's really bizarre. I think, wow, I'm pushing some buttons, right? What is that about? Till now I can see people writing me and saying, wow, really, you're so inspiring to me. And if you can really become so comfortable and you don't even, have a penis, I need to stop, bitching about myself because you can do it.
Isn't that interesting though, where who somebody else is bothers somebody else
clearly
so much?
Clearly.
There's a case I just wrote about it in the paper yesterday. Up in McKinney, somebody had an Obama sign out.
I read about that. That was amazing.
It's an extremely Republican area, but maybe not so much. I mean, she said she has several black neighbors, and she pulled up the sign because she was worried about the kids walking by and seeing these.
They graffitied it with the N-word. And
Romney Ryan, anti-gay, anti-this, anti-that, proud Republican,
white Christian, anti-gay.
Wow!
And all this Republicans rule.
And so she pulled up the sign obviously because she was more worried. What about
it's offensive? It's offensive to so many.
Hello, yeah.
Isn't it interesting? We're making fun of Romney. The fact that, Patty, you're voting for him doesn't offend me.
As I sit here with my sluts vote button.
That's awesome button.
When I meet somebody who's voting for him, I think, are you watching the news? But I'm not that offended by that person.
Right.
That I just
think,
want to.
Wow, you have no clue. You haven't been tuned in. You don't know what's going on.
Right.
But you're not looking at that person with such hatred and venom, and how dare you vote for somebody different than I'm voting for, and how dare you think that way. What you're thinking is, what's a good thing that we have choices in this country and that you can vote for different people, and isn't it good that the two people who are running aren't the same?
Yeah, but you're not normal in that sense that most people...
You're not the first person who's
right. I mean that as a compliment. People, it's about them. And people don't like what they don't understand. And people are angry because they don't understand themselves. And they don't like themselves. And when people don't like themselves, they react whatever button is going to push them, it's going to push them.
They need that validation.
Yes.
That everybody else is like me.
Yes.
And the fact that some people aren't like them
freaks them out. That's that conformity that I was telling you about earlier, the box. Let's check the boxes. And then when you're not in that, people do not like that. They don't like to feel, tricked or fooled or how come you're not on board with this? And people are easily brainwashed. I mean, that's what the media does in this country. It brainwashes people to believe it's not that black and white. This presidential race is not that black and white, really. If you think about it, it's like there's a lot going on there, but people are so, they do crazy stuff like that. There's so much hate. I mean, where's all that hate coming from? Who does stuff like that? Who writes that stuff? It's not 1950. It's 2012.
And it's an expression of their hate. It literally is. And what really bothers me is that these are probably the same people who are so critical of, say, the Muslim community in the Middle East, who are coming unglued about cartoons that depict Muhammad, and of course, in Islam, you don't show the prophet any depictions whatsoever of the prophet. So a derogatory one, especially.
Right.
And then this film thing was the trailer. It's not even a film; it's a trailer that upset about.
It wasn't a real film.
Right, it wasn't even a real film. It's just a propaganda piece that somebody put together that is meant to be offensive, and they came unglued. Well, if a yard sign down the street from you for the opposite candidate than who you support is just there, it's just sitting in the yard for hours at a time, days, not doing anything, and you come unglued about that, you're exactly the same as people coming unglued. And actually, the Muslim community who are getting upset have more reason to be upset,
right? Right, than
you do about the stinking yard sign.
Well, you've had people come to your house and criticize your signs.
Yeah, I got an anonymous note on my car, which meant they came into the car was in the driveway.
Oh my God!
So they came into the driveway and put it under my windshield wiper, and it was a Phyllis Schlafly article that was been printed in the paper. And Phyllis Schlafly, of course, of Eagle Forum, who I do subscribe to because I subscribe to Family Research Council, American Families, because you got to see what they're doing.
You got to watch the enemies, totally. You have to.
And the best way to do that is just subscribe
completely.
So this person, whoever it did, underlined practically the entire article, like there's emphasis all the way through. It's like people who highlight their entire textbook. So you can go back and really study it. And then said, we don't like your Obama signs, your neighbors. And at the time, it was the 2010 election, and we did have Democratic yard signs in our yard, and I'm a Democratic precinct chair. We have a great corner. We have big signs, little signs. And, it's very, very odd because we didn't have any Obama signs. So we got some Obama signs.
Right.
Put them out.
Right.
Well, this was 2010. He wasn't running.
It wasn't running. But we thought, well, what the heck? Let's get some. If they're, if that's the whole reason for this, let's get some then. So we put some more Obama signs in the yard. You have Obama's bumper stickers on the car.
I thought it was a free country.
Exactly.
No,
I mean, what am I missing here?
Because she gave you this article, you probably changed your vote.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way to get somebody to change their vote.
Get somebody to change.
Exactly.
Make them do it. That'll
creepy.
work. Well, the scary thing is they're a neighbor.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Somebody in my neighborhood that I live around that my dogs bark at, hopefully.
Right, hopefully.
Is doing this.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Well, the person who in McKinney who had gotten this, she wrote on her blog, I can tell by the handwriting that you're probably a proper Christian woman. And she goes on very...
Especially since they put white Christian.
So,
what?
It's very sad because people aren't all the same. Do you find that with transgender... First of all, there seem to be a lot more transgender people now than there were 10 years ago. But that's not really possible if that's just who you are. Why are there so many more, or is it just so many more out?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. And I do think, first off, because there's more opportunity to see it. Like when I did it 20 years ago, there was no internet, there was no Google, there was nothing. There wasn't even, I was my doctor's first trans male patient. He only dealt with trans women, and I was basically his guinea pig in a sense. Same with my top surgeon. I mean, back in the day when I did it, there was nothing. Now it's like you could go on the internet. There's more opportunity. So I think before people I didn't even know I could do it back in the day. I learned because I saw a person in a movie, and I thought,
it was
wow.
Renee Richards.
Yeah.
Really.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Tennis player.
Exactly. And that was a man to a woman, so there wasn't even any female to males, and so
that was actually one of the reasons my mother was so accepting, because my mother was friendly with Renee Richards' wife.
Really?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome! Yeah. Wow, that's totally cool. So she did a lot.
David's very historical.
Oh wow!
He's been around.
He's been around
firsthand.
George Washington, who used to go to a gay bar.
Right. He was there. He was there. He can vouch for it. Yeah.
But so you think just more people are seeing it and saying, Oh, that's me.
Possibly that's me. Yeah, and I think what I was saying with you before is, look, for myself, I'm a transsexual, which is completely different, sort of like within what's going on today, which is transgender movement. I live my life as a man. I wanted to always be a man. I don't live in the trans movement. So I think the trans movement is something different than what I wanted to achieve, which was basically a sex change and go from a woman to a man. And I think today what's happening more is people are sort of redefining that as a trans movement and sort of living fluid between the genders and okay with being just a transgendered person. But I think that's a great thing, because it helps people maybe understand, okay, maybe I am not a man or a woman, or maybe I want to be a man and still have boobs and a vagina, and that's okay, or maybe I just want to grow a beard, or maybe, it's okay. So it's actually, I think, a great thing in a sense that it gives people opportunities to sort of maybe find themselves and not have to, like, I had to identify as a gay woman for many years, even though I didn't really feel like a gay woman, and nobody understood that. When I'm saying I don't feel like a gay woman, I feel like a man, people did
when
not.
Chaz Bono experienced exactly the
completely
same thing.
the same thing. Completely the same thing.
And so many people were surprised. Now, Chaz was on our show. This was the first show she was ever on as an out lesbian.
Right, great.
And
this was many
so
moons ago.
We're doing history again.
Yes,
history.
we are.
She was, the way she walked, it was as a man.
Right.
The way she talked.
Right.
Was very much as a man. So when she came out as transgender, I wasn't surprised.
Sure.
I wasn't surprised at all. And I went ding, ding, ding. This is what's been happening all along.
Yes.
I mean, so it makes sense now.
Yes.
But it's been his decision along the way as that evolution has happened.
Exactly.
His comfort level with himself.
And he's totally a different person. You can see it.
And Buck, we have like 15 seconds.
Okay.
You will be